So you're planning your retirement. You got some numbers. You're thinking about, okay, if I retire at 60, maybe I'm going to retire at 65 when I go on Medicare. The question becomes, how long or will you be retired? How long will you be permanently unemployed? And that answer to that question is a really difficult one because it really is asking, how long are you going to live? And I have some new information or some studies and some questions that people have been asking or answering about living to 100. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's show. And speaking of living to 100, we know Tony's grandfather lived to 102, was it?
101, but he was
101.
active and driving through his 100th year.
Welcome to the show, Tony. The question we're going to answer today is, how long should you plan to be retired? Do you know technically how long your grandfather was retired?
With my grandfather, that's hard to say because he was a farmer, owned his own farm, and he still got up at age 99. He got up at 5 a.m. every morning and went out and did stuff on the farm. Now, actively farming,
That's a bad example.
like
Bad
getting,
example.
yeah, terrible example. And I have, like, on my dad's side, I have uncles, aunts who have lived into their hundreds. There's longevity on my dad's side of the family. Now, my dad has Parkinson's and he's in pretty bad shape. He's 83. So I don't think he's going to make it that long, but he's determined. He's made it a lot longer that people with a lot of his issues. He's got Parkinson's and a lot of other things happening. So there is some good genes in the family. But yeah, my grandfather's a bad example because he did a slow retirement. You know what I mean? He kind of phased out of it. But I would say he retired. He stopped farming actively at about 80. So now he spent 21 years in retirement.
Okay. 21 years, which a lot of people we're about to find out plan for.
Yeah.
Tell me, Tony, do you think you're going to live to 100?
No.
And would you want to live to 100?
No. One word, pizza. I mean, I have a weakness. I admit it. And it's probably taken years off my life, but
preventing you, not you're going to not be able to eat pizza because it's going away. I mean, like, why would they want to live if there's
nobody knows the day or time? I have no idea, but I will say, there's good genes, so I've got a chance. But I see myself living to maybe 90, right?
True. That's a
I don't
reasonable
want to,
assumption.
but the end years, like my parents, I just they're not. That's no way to live. Like when you have to have 24/7 care and can't do things for yourself, and the loneliness, the isolation, even if you're in a good home, and it's hard. It's hard. I see end of life. It's tough, but for a lot of people who have to be in long-term care is terrible. If I could just know, okay, let's lop that, those years off. You hate to say that, and some people will be like, oh no, and I love my parents and don't want anything to happen to them, but at the same time it's like, yikes. The end, knocking a couple of years off the end is, I mean, it's easy for me to say that now.
True,
how will I feel in 10, 20 years, right? So that's a tough. Do you want to is the tough part. Will you live to age 100? A lot of people will say, most people, even if they will, they'll say no. I would assume people don't think they're going to live as long as they do typically, right?
Well, actually, I have the stats on that, Tony, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
But we did a show on when I pulled out my little coin that I still have.
Yes.
Memento Mori. Make my life a whole lot easier if I knew when my clients were going to die.
Right? Oh, sure. Yeah. If make everybody's life easier, if we knew when the day was, we could plan accordingly.
Well, then again, do we really want to know that?
No, I don't want to know.
Necessarily. Right. We wouldn't want
I just want my financial advisor to know. And not tell me, because then you could plan for me, right, Dan? And then I wouldn't have to worry about it.
True. It would make life easier for the retirement planner, but everything would be like, Tony, no, spend that. Why? I'm going to run out. No, you won't. Trust me. You're not going to run out.
Yeah, I
Just
guess
go
that
with me
wouldn't
on
work
this.
too well.
Right.
The writing would be on the wall pretty quick.
Right. It's really awkward for me to say this, but yeah, you should go on that cruise now.
Yeah. But Dan, I only
So
have $50,000 left. No, spend it today. That'd be like, what?
well, what I want to do is bring up this Corebridge Financial's 2025 Retirement and Longevity Survey
Okay.
from September 2025. And they asked 3,460 non-retirees and 984 retirees that are all 18 and older, by the way, with at least $35,000 of income. And they asked them these questions about what they think about this. When do you want to live to 100? And if so, how do you feel about it? Right. So they asked a bunch of questions. So what I want to do, it's time for me to do this. I'm going to bring it up, Tony. I'm going to bring up the infographic because I know you don't like stats and numbers, but they also have, along with the white paper, which I've read, they have an infographic they call
I like
it, which
colorful
is just
graphs.
pictures,
You know that.
right?
Yeah.
So you know it's time for now, Tony. It's time for.
And now, today's shocking information.
So, Tony, shocking
What people
information.
don't realize, what people don't realize who just saw that, who are watching the video version of the show, that clip, that is a thing. We actually got shocked and we're actually surprised to be shocked. That wasn't a made up reaction. Just wanted to throw that out there.
And the shocking news is that I have a game that I play with my kids that actually shocks the slowest person that presses the button. And for some reason, both Tony and I were equally slow, and we got both shocked, which it was pretty nasty shock too.
It was surprisingly strong. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Tony, can you see this? This is the infographic that I wanted to share. Corebridge Financial sells insurance, by the way. So keep that in mind when we're looking at this.
Sure.
But navigating the path to 100. So they asked the people that I mentioned, the survey, do you think it's possible to live to 100? And half said yes. Only half.
It's more than I thought.
Really? You think you would think that
people I know are like, I'm not going to live to 100.
Okay.
Yeah, people say that.
That makes sense. You're Generation X.
Yeah.
So only 48% of Generation X thought that people could live to 100. 44% of boomers, right? Because they're like, I don't think so. My friends are dropping like flies, right? And then the Gen Z, they think 55, and that's because right?
Because they think they're going to live forever. Do you know any Gen Zers? They're oblivious to the fact that life will end someday. In their world, when you're young, you think you're going to live forever. That's just.
I think the kids might be Gen Z. I think.
Yeah,
you could just say they're oblivious. You don't have to say anything after that, Tony. You don't have to qualify that. Just say they're oblivious.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. No clarification after that needed.
Here's an interesting stat, though. 67% of the people who have a centenarian family member, such as yourself, think it's possible they could achieve a 100-year life. So would you agree that, Tony, because your grandfather lived to 100, you feel more likely that there's a possibility you can?
Yeah, and his brother,
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather's brother, Art Shore, 103. His aunt, 103. So yeah, there's some longevity there. And that's helping me. But again, I live I don't get up at 5 a.m. and work all day like these folks did. Physical labor. I mean, I get up and work, but not at 5 a.m. and I don't work as long or as hard as them. I don't get the physical exercise. So I think that's going to affect it. There's so many factors, right?
Of course, there's factors, and they go through some of the benefits of living to 100. Obvious benefits of living longer are nice, but the concerns, physical decline is the biggest concern. 87% say, that would be a problem. Just that was the first thing out of your mouth is like, I don't know if I want to live to 100 because what about? And you're thinking about your parents. and their physical decline. It's like, do I really want to go through that?
Yeah.
Will I be able to maintain my quality of life?
Yeah.
Will I experience serious health problems? This is a big issue.
Look at how much higher the concerns are, the percentages.
About health in particular, then
Yeah.
it drops to 69% worry about running out of money. So there are a lot more health-related concerns than money-related concerns.
And that surprises me, really, honestly.
That's why it's shocking,
Because
Tony.
if you live to 100, you better have one heck of a good retirement income plan and a really good financial services professional, a fiduciary helping you, doing the math, doing all the strategies possible to minimize taxes, maximize returns, things like that.
Right. And we've done shows on this in different ways. I remember we did a show on how, if you had extra money to spend, what would you spend it on to be for retirement and happiness and stuff? And I said, spend it on your friends, spend it on forming those relationships, because relationships are what drive longevity and happiness in retirement. The more you have friends and family, close relationships, that you're going to live longer. The studies prove that. So, and that's why top 3 things Americans are taking today. Number 1 is connecting with friends and family, getting an annual physical, and maintaining an overall healthy diet. So let's talk about some of the challenges of living to 100, because when I ask my clients, Tony, how long do you want to plan for? Most of my clients come to me at age 60, late 50s, early 60s. And they're like, I want to retire. What does it look like? And we start mapping it out. We start throwing simulations out.
What do they throw out? They say 85 probably.
Well, it's all over the map.
Sure.
But no one really likes the question.
Nope.
I have to ask it.
Yep.
Some people are very quick. I'm going to live to 100, right? They know it. They have it. Mostly all clients, if they don't come out with it right away, I will prompt them. I ask them about their parents.
Sure.
How long do your parents live?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's always good. That's always good to look at. But Dan, if I retire at 65 and I live to 100, I think the financial concern becomes the greatest at that point, over even health, because you're going to have 35 years. That's 35 years of yearly income and living expenses and more if you want to do things in retirement. And if you don't do things, you probably won't live the 100 years. You have to stay active and do things. So, that's a lot.
30 plus years in retirement. How do you plan for that? And look at what the surveys are.
2 words. How do you plan
challenge.
for that? I can answer that in 2 words. Dan Wendell.
Well, this is what I'm trying to do, right?
Yeah.
And I'm hoping people start to see this. And it seems like they are. In the Corbridge study, they asked, what do you think the biggest challenge is? And number 1 is inflation. Everyone's like inflation, because they get it. They're seeing that 2025, 2024, it was terrible, right?
Yeah.
And everyone got a taste of that. And so they're saying, well, if I live to 100 and I have 40 years in retirement, what was my dollar worth 40 years ago? And they start extrapolating. They're like,
a third.
Rising cost of healthcare. That one everyone knows about.
Yeah.
A big one lately, long-term viability of Social Security and Medicare, right? This is a big concern. And their health. And just not knowing. That's the other thing. People don't know how long they're going to live.
Right.
And so when they put a number on it and I say, all right, we're going to use 90. Now all of a sudden it's like, wow, that means I'm going to have to cut down on my spending now so I have some more later. I don't like that. Have me die at 82. So this way I can enjoy life earlier. And right. But there's ways to deal with this. There's ways to deal with this for sure. So the top 7 that they say are obviously financial planning. You hit it right. You hit it right, Tony. You got to plan. Right? But you have to begin to increase your savings. You have to factor in Social Security and, start figuring it out now. But how long do you think people plan for retirement when they're asked, how long do you think you're going to be retired? How many years will you be retired?
Yeah, most people probably say 20.
And that's it. Most people, half of the people in the survey said 20 years or less. 35% which said between 20 and 30 years, and only 15% said more than 15, more than 30 years. Only
But we know the
15%.
numbers are trending the almost the opposite of that.
Correct.
Still 20 years is pretty popular, but and probably realistic. But more and more people are living to 100 every day. So
Correct. So more and more people are living longer. People are aware that they're going to live longer, but it's always someone else that's going to live longer.
right, it's always
And
someone
then
else. Yeah,
when they're planning for retirement, they're struggling just to retire, to think I'm going to need 35 years in retirement. It makes it even more complex. And then they say, never mind. And then they don't, nah, and they don't plan for it and blah, blah, blah. Right. So I think what's happened is there's a huge disconnect between people living longer. And, and there's going to be comments on this show. Comment to me if you think that life expectancies are going down versus up. I think they're going up. The data shows they're going up, but a lot of people still will say and fight me on this that no, life expectancies are going down. Life expectancies at birth are going down slightly recently. But if you're 65, you're going to live longer.
Yeah.
And the longer you live, the longer you're going to live. How's that for a
yeah.
stat?
And I want to point out, I read that in a reliable source. I think this was an AP or Bloomberg News story, that you hear about longevity. On average, the people are living longer, but it depends on the study and the data because of the opioid pandemic, fentanyl alone drastically affected some of the data. They said, oh, life expectancy has gone way down the last 10 years. Well, it turns out that the calculations were looking at how many people died before a certain age, and it's due to the fentanyl crisis or COVID. I mean, you can't, those things, black swan events skew it, but the average person, if you remove those things, longevity has gone way up. But you have to remove the outliers. That's the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have to add in your own factors. We talk about that when we're planning Social Security. Social Security tells you when you're going to die. They have it on their sheet, tells you the life expectancy to the month. So if you really want to know, you can log into Social Security, find out when you're going to die. But you know better, right? So you know how long your parents lived. You know your lifestyle.
Yep.
You know you're predisposed to certain illnesses or not. You know your family history. You might not know. But again, tomorrow's promised to no one. So we don't get the beauty. We don't know, right? And maybe that's a good thing. But I do see a disconnect between even the people that I meet and I work with, between how long they want to plan for and how long in reality they should be planning for. So what do? A couple of solutions. Plan for income. I'm sorry. Hold on. You sorry about that, Tony. I jumped ahead of it. You plan to live to 100 even if you're not going to, unless you have some specific data that says no. You then say, where can I focus my income for those later years? And that's when you have to rely on Social Security, because that's got the built-in cost of living increase for longevity. You might say, I'm going to have a portfolio. I'm going to have a bond portfolio. I'm going to buy some CDs and ladder them and stuff. That's not going to keep up with inflation. That's where you have to embrace risk. And a lot of people that they struggle with that. They don't like,
especially as they get older, especially as we get older.
Right. So you might have to embrace risk. You might have to say, my portfolio is going to get riskier as I get older. We've done shows on that because you're protecting against longevity. You might have to delay Social Security because, well, a break even is 82, break even is whatever, 79. If I do, how many times have we had shows on that and people that's the biggest comments. Oh, take it early. If you have longevity in your family, delaying Social Security might be the play because it's going to have that compounding cost of living effect on it. Well, Social Security won't be here. And, what else are you going to do? Right? You got to have some plan. And so taking a little bit more risk for the long term, delaying Social Security might be the play. that might be what is the solution to deal with it. And yes, as you get older, you spend less. I guess everyone says the different. It's going to be spending more in healthcare. No, I know a lot of people. Think about your grandfather. Even though he was an outlier, he was spending less as he was getting older.
Oh,
he
for
wasn't
sure.
doing the long RV trips as much, right?
Right.
Toning it down. So you can't go blindly and say, I don't know when I'm going to die, so I'm just going to go wing it. You don't want to plan to live to 120 and then be a pauper. You're going to have to balance this out. So I think that my overall strategy, which has been successful to date, is let's spend extra early while you're young and healthy and have some delay, some investments for the long term, for the future, just in case you do happen to beat the odds or beat your personal feeling and live well into your 90s. Why not?
Yeah.
You can do both.
If you plan for 100, you're covered. I mean,
right. But the difficulty is, Tony, if you plan for 100, you might be leaving a lot of chips on the table because you're not spending the money that you want to spend in your 60s because you're worried.
Good point.
So I'm not saying I don't want to overly worry about living in my 90s, but you should have a plan.
True.
You should
True.
have some sort of plan.
True.
Right? So that's
and
really
maybe
where
it's maximizing your Social Security to rely on at that point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you give and take. There's no right answer.
Good point.
Of course. There's also some longevity surveys that you could take. And I'm going to try, I might start incorporating that as part of my practice with clients. Is one of the first things you do is take this survey. It'll give us a really good indication because it gets detailed about your health history and your lifestyle. It'll give you a much better indication of how long you're going to live than just average statistics, right?
Or gut feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it, Tony. I think the key is you may live longer than you think. So why not at least have that conversation and plan for it? Because yes, planning for a 30 plus retirement is reasonable. Just, and if you're still doubting it, oh, I'm not going to live that long. Look around you and think of some people that are in their 90s. You know some. Ask yourself when they retired.
Yep.
Odds are they've been retired for more than 30 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Well, Dan, one last thing I want to point out to especially our viewers, that if you didn't notice, I can't believe this, but you and I just happen to wear the exact same shirts we did on last week's show. I just noticed that.
No, you're wrong. I had a different color shirt. Go check it. Yes, I did.
Oh, I have the same shirt on I did last week. I remember that.
Yeah, but that's because you don't, personal hygiene, Tony.
I washed it between.
You must be freezing up in Minnesota. You should be layered. You should have layers. So
I got some coats over.
It's like one of those change artists you see, like they do.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how they do that, but that's what we should have done. Maybe that's a good topic for next year. Tony, again, good to see you, and thank you all for a great show. We'll catch you next week.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Riddle nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc. and Dolphin Insurance, Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.